As with boxing, when it's at the elite stage, you can't play games.
Without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you.
It's crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds.
Floyd Mayweather confronted Jake Paul about the no-knockout rule in his upcoming fight with Gervonta Davis. He said Jake is more focused on selling tickets and turning the event into a show instead of a real competition. Floyd believes the fight doesn't feel serious, but admits both fighters know what they're getting into. He insists that real boxing should be about skill and challenge, not watered-down rules that make it look like a performance.
But like I said before, they know what they're doing. Both brothers.
Wade Plemons posted on X, "We all knew this would be an exhibition, but the Florida State Athletic Commission saying the fighters will show skill without trying to win through punches or full contact isn't exactly great marketing." Law Plemons, known for his sharp boxing takes, criticized the commission for making the fight sound weak and less intense. His point was that fans expecting a real boxing match might lose interest after hearing that. Floyd Mayweather, who has always loved competition, seems to agree. Analysts now think his plan to fight Mike Tyson is about more than money, it's about pride and attention. With the buzz around Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul growing, Floyd is making sure the spotlight stays on him. By setting up a fight with Tyson, he guarantees the world's focus shifts back to him. It's a classic Mayweather move: stay relevant, control the story, and remind everyone that his name still rules boxing culture.
Now that there's so many celebrities and so many people that are known, where you can get somebody and they can sell tickets to events, that's what kicked off the social media influence boxing that Jake Paul was birthed from. Now we're in a vacuum. And so there's going to be a lot of conversation about that and continuing to do that. In this particular video, though, I want to get into the mind of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and why Floyd Mayweather Jr. would do this. There is the money, but there's also the competitive nature of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and him not wanting to have other people think that they're a bigger star than he is. Floyd Mayweather Jr. has not been able to really launch his star outside of the sport of boxing, so he continues to do exhibitions. Now, what I think is that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is announced it at this point in time with Mike Tyson in order to take advantage of the publicity heading into the Gervonta Davis, Jake Paul fight, which is, I do believe, set for November. So now that they have all the publicity and all that stuff coming out from that, he's going to piggyback on it and then try to have it in the beginning of next year sometime and actually make it a bigger event than Gervonta versus Jake Paul. And it probably will be. And the reason that I say that is because of Mike Tyson.
At the center of this whole situation is the question of legacy. Mayweather is retired and undefeated, so his exhibition fights are mostly about keeping his image strong. Jake Paul uses big events like this to build his fame. But for Gervonta Davis, the choice is more serious. Every fight he takes now affects his career path. By choosing entertainment over tough competition, he risks losing respect from boxing purists who want him to fight real contenders. The real question is, does short-term fame matter more than long-term respect?
Whether what is going to happen in that fight is basically the same thing as what's happening to Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford, except for that is a live action fight that is a real competitive fight. But the marketing of it is the same thing, and the fact that somebody is going to pay for it is more likely with Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Mike Tyson than it is with even Jake Paul and Gervonta. But I think that it really is an attempt to compete with Gervonta Davis by setting up a bigger fight than Gervonta Davis is having. And now I'm going to tell you something else too. I would not put it past these people.
The Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight was already creating headlines, but Floyd's move made sure the spotlight wouldn't leave him. For years, he's mastered the art of keeping attention on himself, even when it means bending boxing traditions. His latest plan shows he's still fiercely competitive. He refuses to let Jake Paul's fame or Tank Davis's rise take his spot in boxing's spotlight. The Tyson matchup immediately grabbed attention nostalgia for Mike and Floyd's perfect record. Make it more marketable than Jake versus Tank. Meanwhile, the Davis-Ball fight has drawn criticism because it isn't a real professional contest. The commission only approved it as an exhibition, not an official bout. Critics say that makes it closer to WWE-style entertainment, where the goal is a show, not victory. With no knockouts and no official stakes, many believe the event is more about promotion than real boxing. It might create buzz, but for purists, it damages boxing's image as a serious sport.
Will face Gervonta Davis in an exhibition match. Quote, "You can't do a fight like that as a pro fight," Shipman said. It'll be an exhibition fight, end quote. Similarly to the concerning location move, he states that the main reason for this is the significant weight disparity between the two opponents. An exhibition is defined by Florida statutes as a boxing, kickboxing, or mixed martial arts engagement in which persons participating show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win, using strikes, elbows, blah, blah, blah. So, the key word here is, key phrase, show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you. These are setup fights. These are rigged fights. I know Jake Paul gets upset when people say he ain't a real fighter and all that stuff, but I think the Mike Tyson fight pretty much showed everybody that, Mike was pulling back on his punches, and it just was weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Now you got Gervonta Tank Davis getting ready to sell his soul to go up in here and move around the ring with Jake Paul. I don't know what's going to happen on this. I don't know, but regardless of the fact, the fight is going to do well because it's going to be on Netflix. So everybody got Netflix, so everybody's going to watch the fight. So it's going to be like a wrestling event, basically, a fake scripted fight.
Former champion Paulie Malignaggi has been outspoken about his frustration with the Jake versus Tank matchup. He says knockouts only mean something when they happen between evenly matched fighters. In his opinion, staged fights like this one cheapen boxing. Paulie also believes Jake Paul is being given undeserved credibility by taking part in flashy events with no real meaning. During his talk with Chris Algieri, he said casual fans may enjoy the show, but true boxing fans can tell it's not genuine competition. His comments point to a deeper issue: authenticity. One reason the fight isn't sanctioned professionally is the major weight difference between the fighters. The Florida Commission said the size gap makes it unsafe, so they only approved it as a sparring-style exhibition with limited rules. This shows how far boxing can stretch for entertainment before regulations step in. Turning it into an exhibition highlights just how unbalanced the matchup really is.
This, Paulie, knockouts, dude. Knockouts. People like knockouts. They don't care if you're knocking out cab drivers. Look at Jake Paul's career.
You can manufacture that though. You can manufacture that though. You can manufacture.
You can't manufacture.
To a
Gervonta
degree,
Davis.
you can. To a degree. I mean, you
Destroying
can't. Yeah,
Frank Martin.
Gervonta legitimately cannot get knockouts. I agree. He can punch, but there's a lot of limited knockout artists though, man.
He's one of the least active punchers in the game with the highest knockout percentage of current heavyweight.
But if he was a real knockout artist, if he was a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best of the best. Felix Trinidad was a knockout artist. He was knocking out the best of the best. If you're a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best and show us how he smokes them. But the way
Paulie,
we did when Felix Trinidad was doing it. You know, the way they did when Mike Tyson was doing it in his prime. Say what you want about the Mike Tyson era. He knocked out everyone from 1986 to 1989. Everyone got knocked out. Everyone.
Well, by your standard, you could say that Tyson was to a degree manufactured.
No,
and
because
Teddy
he fought everyone that was there. Everyone that was there at that time fought.
Teddy Atlas will 100% agree with this because he would say the guys that were afraid of him.
With the exception of Witherspoon. No, but they all, doesn't matter. He knocked them all out. There was nobody you could say in that era except maybe Witherspoon, who had contract issues with King at the time. Except for Witherspoon, there is nobody Tyson didn't fight in that era. He knocked them all out. You can't say like, oh, but if he would have fought that guy, I don't know. No, with Davis, there's guys right now that have been hanging around for years. Yo, dude, when are you going to fight them? The lightweight division was stacked with talent. talent. Even at 130, it had a lot of talent when he was there. Didn't fight almost any of them. So it's not the same thing as the Tyson era. You want to say anything about Tyson era? Fine. It wasn't as high level or something. He still knocked out everyone. There was nobody there in that era that you could say Tyson didn't fight.
Didn't say it was related. It was the same as the Tyson era. Didn't say it at all. I was actually going to say the opposite when you talk about Trinidad. Trinidad is a bona fide superstar. And the way that he was, and like you said, he
stepped
fought
him
everybody.
up and he knocked out.
And he was a knockout punches. No, of course. So that's a different thing. So is Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, you also have to compare it to your contemporaries. Nobody is selling, dude. Nobody is selling. No one sells tickets. No one has a following these days. There's very few fighters who actually sell tickets.
There's a push, bro. I was at
Canelo
Showtime.
Alvarez.
I was at Showtime.
Canelo
There's
Alvarez.
a push, bro. But Champ, I don't want to keep cutting you off, but I got to because
they
here's
all
the thing.
push.
There's
work,
a
sometimes
push
they
for
don't.
certain people. I remember being at Showtime and even watching on HBO on TV. They're mentioning Saul Alvarez, who I didn't even know his name was Canelo at the time, as a possible Mayweather opponent. When they were talking about possible Mayweather opponents, I'm like, I knew who the rest of the guys on the list were. Who the hell is this guy? Who's Saul Alvarez? That he's going on, that you're putting him in a list with all these other guys that you were bona fide champions and high-level fighters.
Broadcaster Ada Ladipo took a different stance when reviewing the situation. He said holding this kind of fight while both Davis and Paul are still young and active is a mistake. According to him, exhibition matches make sense after a fighter's prime like Mayweather versus Logan Paul, but not while they're still building their legacies. Oladipo believes doing it now could distract both from meaningful fights that would define their careers. For him, the issue isn't just the spectacle, it's the timing. These are their best years, and wasting them on side shows could hurt their long-term reputations.
Whether you agree with it or not, Gervonta is considered the #1 lightweight in the world. And it's a division that includes Shakur Stevenson, a lot of young guns coming up. I'm not any more sure if it's going to include Keyshawn Davis, but it's a hot division. He's considered #1 in that division. Like, that's why I kind of find this a bit, don't know. Like, there are challenges out there for Gervonta. There are big money fights out there for Gervonta. We want to see Gervonta in those fights. Again, I don't know how many fights people want to see AJ in, just to make the AJ Jake Paul comparison. One, as far as I'm concerned, that was Tyson Fury. I don't really have any interest in seeing an AJ in any other more fights. Whereas Gervonta Davis, I wanted and still do want to see him in so many more fights. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. These exhibition things are, like, really and truly, they should all be when your career's done. Like, when you think of Floyd versus Logan Paul, it's done, right? Floyd versus Conor. Did he have one more after? Was that it? I can't even remember. But it was right at the end. It was done. Right at the end. Even if it wasn't. Right at the end. These guys having these exhibition fights in between what is the peak of their career is kind of weird for me. Very, very weird. And then it isn't even comparable to Ngannou Fury, because at least these guys were the same size. Like, Jake Paul is a 215, 220 pound guy. I don't know what he walks around at. Gervonta fights at 135. I'm guessing he walks around about 155.
Reports also revealed that Gervonta Davis canceled his planned rematch with Lamont Roach to take the Jake Paul fight instead. This move surprised many, as it showed how spectacle can replace real competition. Roach would have been a legitimate test that could boost Tank's boxing record, but Davis chose the more profitable and less meaningful path. This trade-off between money and legacy has become common in modern boxing, worrying critics who think it sends the wrong message to young fighters. Still, one of the most interesting parts of the Jake versus Tank matchup is the contrast in styles. Jake has the size and power advantage, while Davis has elite speed, skill, and experience. That creates real intrigue. Can skill beat strength, or will size win out? Boxing usually avoids this kind of mismatch through weight classes, but breaking that rule adds both risk and excitement, keeping fans glued to the spectacle despite it being unofficial.
So breaking news, Jake Paul will be taking on Tank Davis in an exhibition on November 15th in Atlanta, Georgia, live on Netflix. And this is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds. So there's a good 60 to 65 pound difference here. It could also mean that Tank Davis is no longer interested in competing for titles anymore and is cashing out of boxing. You know, there's been a lot of talks that Tank is nearing retirement this year, and he was supposed to rematch Lamont Roach after their first fight went to a draw. But instead of chasing the Roach rematch, instead he takes the Jake Paul fight for money. So maybe this is Tank's last or one of his last fights. And same for Jake Paul. He just got ranked number 14 at cruiserweight after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So he's supposed to be fighting other ranked contenders or top guys at cruiserweight. But instead, he's taking a money fight. But I do expect these two to go after each other. Even though it is an exhibition, I don't think it'll just be some boring sparring match. I do think they'll try a decent amount. But Tank, obviously, is a lot more skilled. Jake, he has a lot more size. But you guys let me know who you got.
Former heavyweight Eddie Chambers joined the discussion with a strong warning: don't underestimate Gervonta Davis. While Jake Paul clearly has the size advantage, Chambers said Davis's technical skill is far superior. A smaller, more skilled boxer can easily beat a larger but less experienced one. Chambers said this fight will test whether Jake can handle true world-class talent. His message was clear: size helps, but skill often wins. He reframed the fight not as a mismatch, but as a chance to see if Jake can cope with elite boxing intelligence.
That something like this can happen, but this is social media, this is what is created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. He's gotten a lot of fighters and, actual fighters some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot. So I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing, what he's created. This is a little crazy right here. This is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is going to feel something from it. And it ain't going to be easy to hit it. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out.
What stands out most in all of this is how exhibition fights have become big business. Mayweather already proved the formula: pair fighters from different eras or backgrounds, market it like a blockbuster, and cash in. Jake Paul has mastered this model, and now Gervonta Davis is stepping into that same zone. The promotion behind these events thrives on controversy and social media buzz. Whether people support it or hate it, one thing is certain: it gets attention. And in boxing's modern era, attention always turns into pay-per-view sales.
Aside from make it extremely ugly by grabbing him and probably trying to throw him to the ground, I don't know what else, bite him, I don't know, but I mean, the skill level alone. Now, of course, there is a size difference, a height difference and all that, but he's just going to struggle so much landing a shot. It's just going to look bad. To me, this is the way I see it. It's going to look bad. Tank is going to be too fast. And the punch, I believe, I'm not saying it's going to knock him out or, but he's going to feel it.
Are you surprised at the backlash that Tank is getting?
No, yeah. What is going on with why are they mad at the fighters for this?